It's the month of February 2025, and it's my birthday month. Yay! I really want to do a window shopping segment at least every couple of months or so, because there are some really interesting products in the market that I really want to talk about, and if possible, get my hands on. Let's start talking about smartphones. All I do with my smartphone is browsing, watching videos, and playing simple games like Balatro. That's it. And because of that, I don't need a flagship phone like the Samsung S25 series. A mid-tier phone is perfectly fine to do that job. I had a Samsung A54, but I sold that to my dad for half the price. Now I have an Infinix Note 40S and a Redmi Note 8 that was previously my dad's phone that is slow and has a broken power button. Infinix is one of the many Chinese smartphone brands here in Indonesia, and I decided to go with them because they do offer a compelling price to performance. I'm very happy with this phone, and flagships are not necessary for me. The one thing that the flagship tier phones absolutely nail is the cameras. They are the best in the business, and if you want to have a phone with the best quality camera, definitely go for flagship phones. And even then, if you only need the cameras, you can get older flagships and they will perform just as well for a way cheaper price. Like my girlfriend's old Samsung S21 FE. It's a semi-flagship phone, granted, but it still nails the camera very well. Until it broke. I fixed it, and she got a Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus, which also nails the camera very well. If you're just browsing the internet, watching movies or videos, and occasionally post photos or videos here and there, a mid-range phone will do you just fine. But not all mid-range phones are sold everywhere. Different parts of the world will have different brands being sold in their local market. I recommend checking out on your local smartphone or gadget reviewers. Indonesia, in my case. There should be loads of them in your country making recommendations on the best phones that are in your specific local market. Beyond these super expensive flagship phones and the consumer-friendly mid-tier phones, there are also really cheap phones like the Xiaomi Redmi 14C. This phone costs $1.6 million or about $98. Sounds like a great deal, right? Well, not exactly, because there are many sacrifices that you have to make for a super cheap phone like this. This variant is 8256, 8 gigs of RAM and 256 gig of storage. That's pretty much the bare minimum RAM and storage combo that I recommend for smartphones these days. Anything lower than that and you will struggle running one app, let alone several. Also, it's eMMC storage, which is way slower compared to UFS. Next, the display resolution is 720p using IPS instead of AMOLED. Most mid-range smartphones these days have AMOLED displays. IPS is fine, but it's not going to be the best looking display. Also, there's the 720p resolution. You're not going to notice it because the phone is small enough, but most mid-range phones have 1080p. What about the camera? 1080p 30fps for videos, and it's not the best. I personally prefer phones that can do 1080p 60fps, and most mid-range phones like my Infinix Note 40S or the Samsung A54 can pull that off just fine, even 2K or 4K if I need them too. The photos are generally okay. It's not the best, but it is functional. You can make decent content and photos with it. Samsung also have their super cheap phone, Samsung A06, and it does have pretty similar drawbacks to the 14C, if not worse in some key areas. That one cost $1.7 million or $105, and I did buy that for my aunt because she's really tight on the budget. She desperately needs a new budget and cheap phone, but the 14C was not out yet at the time. I personally would recommend cheap phones like this for my older relatives who don't pay attention to technology that much. This phone will do okay for Facebook and WhatsApp. I will also recommend this phone only if you're really tight on a budget and you recently broke off your phone. Even so, add $100 or $200 more and you'll find plenty of better options in the market with more appealing specs if you ask me. Here's another phone that I just found out that is under $100. This is the Realme Note 60X, an entry-level phone that costs only 1.4 million rupiah or about $86. That is way cheaper than the Redmi 14C. But what's the catch? Well, a lot. The biggest one is the RAM and storage combo, which is 4128, and that's just pathetic. While the storage is expandable, the RAM is not. With a 4 gigs of RAM like that, you're not gonna do any multitasking, and the phone will feel slow and sluggish combined with a weak chipset. Also, resolution is only 720p, IPS panel, eMMC storage, not great cameras. This is definitely not something I recommend for enthusiasts. There are a couple of interesting features that this phone boasts. This is the cheapest phone that has an IP rating that I've seen in the market. It's IP54, granted, it's not the best water protection, but I'm just glad to see a proper water protection rating on a cheap phone like this. Regardless, phones like this are generally not good for social media users who are terminally online and doom scrolls all the time. This is mostly for old people who don't really know how modern technology works and only use one or two apps. I talked about smartphones before, but mostly brand names that you guys know, like Samsung and Apple. I've been a Samsung guy for years now. I still am with my girlfriend's S21 FE that was refurbished, but I also have the Infinix Note 40S. Most of you in the US probably don't know that other smartphone brands exist outside of the big three, Samsung, Google, and Apple. The one that you probably recognize is Xiaomi, who made smartphones and loads of electric products. Xiaomi itself actually only offers flagships like the 14 or semi-flagships like the 14T. It's their subsidiary Poco and Redmi that offer more budget and mid-tier phones that are incredibly compelling for the price. Then there's the company Transsion, which is still catching up to Xiaomi for their phone brands. Their brands consist of Infinix, Tecno, and Itel. All these brands are very competitive in the budget area, but they never really go beyond that. Itel in particular literally ripped off Samsung with their S25 Ultra. Yes, that's an actual phone. Then you have companies like Oppo, Vivo, and Realme, all which compete in most of the price market, the budget, mid-range, and even the flagship tier. All these companies are Chinese, and they're not exactly well received in the US market. We did just get Motorola, which is surprisingly prominent in the budget smartphone tier of America, alongside Nokia. Yes, that Nokia. They still make smartphones. America's smartphone market is limited to those and the big tech, which do have some compelling options even on the budget tier, but there are many amazing budget offerings from the Chinese smartphones that a lot of you people in the US might have totally missed. I talked about smartphones quite a lot, but what about tablets? Well, the products are there and they are designed for specific types of people. I think tablets have a place in the market, but my biggest problem with tablets is that the ones with the best specs are usually more than 10 inches. But I prefer my tablets to be around 8 inches, like the Samsung Tab A9. The Tab A9 that I got unfortunately lacks RAM and storage at 464, but that's pretty much enough for the use cases that I'm using it to. I use it to read manga, novels, and play card games. But my favorite use for my tablet right now is a secondary monitor. Using an application called Space Desk, I am able to use the tablet and my other laptop as external monitors. For streamers, the more monitors you can set up, the better your streaming will be, and Space Desk lets me do that. The tablet's mostly sitting right here as an external monitor for my stream using the Space Desk app, and you can control it through the touchscreen too. So if you have a tablet and you want a touchscreen external monitor, Space Desk is the app for that. Alternatively, you can use an app called Desk Screen, install fake virtual monitors on the PC or buy an external one, and cast them through the browser. Moving on from smartphones, I do want to talk about a couple of gadgets that I've been using that you guys might find a great use for. One of the greatest inventions of modern technology is the portable phone batteries, or power banks as we call them here. I don't see a lot of people talking about these, even though they are pretty essential to a lot of users. The idea of power banks is you plug your devices to them and they'll charge your device like they normally would if you're plugging it to a socket. I do have a power bank, but it's a small one. It's the one that came with the Infinix Note 40S phone that I bought this month. It supports wireless charging, but I don't use wireless charging. Even so, I barely use the wired charging because the places that I go to always have sockets that I can plug, and my 25-watt Samsung charger can charge my phone to near full in just 30 minutes. If you travel around and you use your phone a lot, investing on a power bank is definitely something you should consider. I recommend getting the 10K mAh ones. They offer a good balance between portability and power. They should be able to charge your phone twice before you get them to a socket. You can also get the ones that support fast charging up to 20 to 30 watts, but the faster you charge, the hotter the phone and your bag will be, so definitely keep that under consideration. Charging your phone can also be a rather complicated business. Did you know that not all chargers are the same? Yeah, you get the charging brick and the cable, but not all of them will perform the same. Depending on how old your phones are, they are actually capable of charging way faster than you think. The Samsung S21 FE from 2022 can charge up to 25 watts watts. The Infinix Note 40S that came recently can charge up to 33 watts. The Xiaomi Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus can charge up to 120 watts, which is freaking insane. Look up the phones that you have right now and see how many watts it supports in terms of charging. If your phone does support fast charging, make sure that the brick supports fast charging. See how many watts the bricks can deliver. Also, make sure that the cable supports fast charging too, and make sure that you're plugging it to the right port, because some bricks that have multiple ports don't support fast charging in some of them. Personally, 25 watts is good enough for me, and that's the max that a lot of Samsung phones can go. Anything above that is overkill, and it's gonna heat up the phone, but the charging is undeniably very fast. So it's a trade-off between slow charging but cooler phone or fast charging and hotter phone. You decide. Most of you will know the common USB plug like this, but did you know that you can convert them from one form factor to another? For example, most phones these days will use Type-C for charging. Most of you know the Type-C to standard USB cable. We call these Type-A. You usually connect this to connect to your computer, but you can also have a Type-C dongle like this one so that you can plug in whatever USB devices you like, including HDMI and LAN. Before Type-C, there's micro USB, and before micro USB, there's mini USB. I still have a couple of devices that use those. Micro USB is still the standard for DualShock 4 and Xbox One controllers. Mini USB, on the other hand, is the DualShock 3, and also the standard of some older USB microphones like the Samsung Q2U, Samsung Go, etc. Oh, and there's also the Type-B USB, which is standard for printers, MIDI keyboards, and some Samsung microphones like the C01U, the C03U, and the G-Track. Oh, and there's also those cables for external hard drives. I have loads of those, and I hate those cables. Man, I'm glad that we have Type-C external hard drives now. There are adapters to the cables. One cable can be converted to the other. Know the types of cable first before you buy the adapters for them. Personally, I recommend getting USB Type-C to Type-A female adapters. These are known as OTG, and you can plug in your external hard drives, mouse, keyboard, anything that has a USB in. Experiment and see what your phone is capable of. And that's all for the video today. Thank you all so much for watching. If you made it to the end, here's a cat. And also huge thanks to all these wonderful sponsors. You are all fantastic. If you want to see your name among these legends, then check out the links below, just $1. And you have supported this channel a lot. Seriously, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to check out my ABB Show stream channel, link below. Go subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.